Just to introduce myself, my name's Rachel, and I am currently the campus minister at Mount de Sales Academy. Anybody know where Mount de Sales is? Or went there? Have sisters that go there? Something like that? Okay. The alums? Oh, we got a few. I am an alum. I attended Mount de Sales Academy, and as the campus minister, I'm in charge of the retreats, service projects, things like that. A little known fact about myself, if you're not friends with me on Facebook, because I hounded a lot of you last week and we're now Facebook friends. I am a harpist, so in my weekends and spare times I play the harp at weddings, special events, those kinds of things. It's a lot of fun. So if you're getting married, call me up. And some fun little things about myself. I'm a Baltimore native. I love the Ravens.
Yeah.
Okay. And I love to drink beer, and I will join you all after I'm done speaking with a nice cold one. So that's me. But why are we here tonight? We're here to talk about the Mass. And I thought it was really neat that Peggy and Fernando asked me to come tonight and talk about this topic, because I guess the reason that this series is on the Mass is it's the most common thing that Catholics know, right? I mean, every Catholic probably has been to Mass, you know, and it's right? Because we all could have very different forms of spirituality or different likes and dislikes, habits of prayer, but we all practice the same Mass, no matter what country you're in, no matter what city you're in, no matter what language you speak, it's all the same. So it's neat that this was the topic that we're speaking about. And just so you know, I went to college at Franciscan University of Steubenville, got the degrees in theology and religious education, so I learned a lot about the sacraments during that time. And if you know the Catechism of the Catholic Church, it describes the Eucharist as the source and summit of our faith. Has anybody heard that before? Yeah, so, I mean, it's the most important thing. It's the best way that we can worship God. So, also, another thing that I think about the Mass is that it's something we're required to do once a week, you know? So it can become very habitual, which is a good thing, but lots of people criticize it as being boring, monotonous. It's that thing we got to do on Sundays we don't want to wake up for, especially after a great Saturday night as young adults, right? Okay. The Sinner's Mass at 5:30 p.m.? Just kidding. That's what we called it in college. And also because, you know, the Ten Commandments tell us to keep holy the Sabbath, right? This is something we might have burning on our conscience all the time, is, I gotta go to Mass. It can feel like an obligation, something that if I don't go, I'm gonna go to hell. You know, right? You might feel that way sometimes. It's that imprinted upon us how important it is. And so I was very honored to be asked to be here, but I'm not an expert. Okay, I'm not a priest, right? I am not a great theologian. Louis last week was incredible as he's dedicated his life to studying the Mass. That's not me. So I'm here to kind of lead us, hopefully, in a discussion, because I am a participant, just like all of us are, right? We're all Catholics, and I'm one of those other Catholics that's sitting in the pew. So I'm hoping to just share some stories about my experience with the Mass and the Eucharist especially, and then hopefully we can talk about it. That sound good? Okay, cool. So first I want to ask some questions. So I need some audience participation. Okay? What are some common misconceptions about the Mass? Why do your friends complain about Mass? Why don't they go? Why do they stop going to church? Give me some feedback. What do people say about Mass? Why is it boring? Yes?
They don't like the priest who's speaking.
They don't like the priest who's preaching. What else? Yes?
Up and down, knee on stand.
Catholic aerobics, yeah, right? Yeah.
Over and over and over again.
Oh, yeah. Yep. What else? Yes?
They don't understand why we go. They think that it's an obligation. They don't understand that it's because we want to do it. They're like, it's the rule you're having to follow.
An obligation. Rules. People don't like rules. Yeah. What else?
Don't feel
Yes, go ahead, Danny. Yeah.
You don't feel as welcome.
Okay.
It seems so routine and big.
Yeah, it can seem not as loving, maybe more put off in a sense. Yeah. Okay. What were you gonna say?
I was going to say something like that, but I think one thing people tell me a lot is people judge them if they look different. And they,
Like by the way they're wearing, what they're wearing,
Exactly. So,
their appearance.
yeah.
They can feel judged. That's interesting. Yeah, sure. What else? Why don't people wake up for Mass? Plenty more excuses. Yes, Rachel.
I guess sometimes people see it as being more like of a reserved thing where there's a disconnect, like where it kind of goes along with the rules. You're just like saying things that you memorize instead of actually having a meaning behind it.
Yeah, that repetition thing.
Not realizing there's a meaning behind what we're doing.
Okay. Maybe they don't understand it. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Yes?
Maybe crying babies.
The crying babies, sure. Those little annoying habits. The teenagers chewing gum at Mass, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Or maybe us chewing. Have you ever heard Catholics being called cannibals for going to Mass?
I think that was an ancient Roman.
Oh, I still get that sometimes, but yes. Yes, I've heard that criticism. Right, they don't understand the real presence, right? They don't understand the Eucharist. Anything else? Yes?
The one that I hear most is very general, but people just say that they don't get anything out of it.
What do you mean by that? What do they mean by that?
I think they mean that like, they expect to be entertained.
Yeah.
They want to hear a concert. They want a funny sermon that'll make them laugh. You know, rather than be focused on what they're putting into it.
Very good. People expect to be entertained. Yeah. Okay, well I think those are all very true. I think we've heard them at least once, maybe more than once. So, the title of my talk, Peggy wanted to name it, Are You Engaged? And then I thought only engaged couples would come, you know? It was a great idea, but I was like, let's do boring or mind-blowing. I thought that was... Anyway, I thought it was catchy. So, the thing is, I think overall we can kind of lump all those up into this attitude of boredom or misunderstanding, you know, is why people don't go to Mass. So, I'm here to tell you that I think the Mass is mind-blowing. Not that every single Sunday I'm sitting there and it's so awesome, I'm like freaking out. That's not the case. It's just from what I've read and what I've learned and experiences I've had, I truly know that Eucharist is Jesus Christ, and that's mind-blowing enough. You know? So, I just wanted to talk about my experience with the Mass. So, I remember my first communion. Do you remember your first communion? And those are my parents over there. Can you wave?
Good-looking couple.
Oh, stop. Well, I'm going to talk about you. So I remember at my first Holy Communion, I mean, it was a big day. I don't know if your parents made a big deal out of it, but mine did. My grandmother made my dress. We had a big cake and party afterwards. But at my first communion, right after I went up to receive the Eucharist, I remember going back to the pew, and you kneel down and you pray. And I remember seeing my father actually crying, like tearing up, crying. Sorry, Dad. And that was very profound for me because, dads don't cry, right? Hardly ever. And I remember thinking, this is a big deal. What I just did is very important, and I've never forgotten that memory. So that was something really important that happened in my life, and I knew that that piece of bread wasn't just a cookie. Kids call it a cookie, right? I knew that there was something important there. Also, I was raised in a Mass-going family. We definitely went every Sunday. My mom even took me to daily Mass a lot when I was a little girl, and I was homeschooled for a couple of years, so we were able to attend daily Mass, and it just became part of my life. It wasn't weird to go to Mass. My family definitely chose Mass over football, right? Some families, football is more important on Sundays. And another thing is that when I was in high school, I went to Mount Sales Academy, which is where I work now, and it's a Catholic all-girls school. And reverence for the Lord, especially in the Eucharist, is so ingrained in us because our chapel is in the very middle of the school building. And when you walk to class, you got to walk through the chapel. But those nuns, right, they know we have to be dead silent when we enter that chapel. And every girl, no matter how active in their faith or not they are silent once they hit that carpet, right? And then when you pass by the tabernacle, every single one of us with our big heavy book bags genuflects, makes the sign of the cross, and then goes off to class. And so just, these little pieces in my life that, just drew me to an understanding of the Lord. But I have had, then in my adult life, some that looks good, some very personal experiences with Jesus in the Eucharist. I have actually, a couple times in my life, heard the Lord speak to me, like heard His voice. And that's a real gift. And that's happened 3 times in my life, and every time was in front of the Eucharist, which is really interesting. I was just, like getting ready for this talk and thinking about it. It's really neat that every time it was, one of them was at a Eucharistic festival where a monstrance was being processed around the room, and God told me something very important for my life. Another time I was sitting alone in an empty church in front of the tabernacle, and I heard His voice, had a full conversation with Him. It's pretty mind-blowing, right? And what was the other time? Oh yeah, the other time was in Immaculate Conception Chapel, Adoration Chapel. Has anybody been there? This was pretty neat. I'm just going to share this one story. The Lord told me to quit my job. And that was really scary because I didn't have another job lined up at the time, and I was like, Lord, I can't. I don't have money. I have to go to, I have bills to pay. And He said, trust me, quit your job. I heard His voice say that. The very next day, I went and quit my job on blind faith. 3 days later, I got my job at Mountain Sales. That wasn't supposed to be there, and it was this incredible God moment. So anyway, very powerful moments where I knew that was a person. The Eucharist was a person speaking with me, having a relationship with me. Also, I wanted to share a really cool story. I spent a semester abroad in college in Austria, the country of Austria, and so neat. I got to travel all over Europe and see all of these holy places, take a lot of pilgrimages. But one of them that I want to share with you, I saw the site of a Eucharistic miracle. And I don't know, a lot of you have probably heard the one in Lanciano, right, in Italy. That's the most famous one. But I kind of stumbled upon this place. I was in Innsbruck, Austria, which is on the western side of the country. And I was just there with a couple of friends, and we were just there to shop, buy those cool cuckoo clocks and stuff, right? Little Austrian hats. I mean, we were not intending on taking a pilgrimage, but of course, every time you're in a city in Europe, there's churches everywhere you go, right? So we walked into this one church, completely empty, and there's a little, you put a euro coin in a box, pick your language, and you listen to the story of the church. Well, the story was that back in the 1300s, I think it was, there was a knight who lived in the town. He was the one with the biggest army, the strongest, the most powerful. And he hated the church because he felt that it was threatening to his power. So one day on a Sunday, he walked into Mass with his whole army. And they march up to the front where the altar is. And he has all his soldiers with their swords and their spears and everything threaten to kill the priest unless the priest gives him the large host. You know how at Mass, the priest consumes the largest host and we all get smaller ones? And he said, I want to show this whole town that I'm more important than you. So you give me that large host in front of everyone. So right, he's kneeling down. The priest places the large host on his tongue. And immediately when that happens, this is amazing, the ground, it's a stone ground, turns to quicksand in the sense that he starts sinking, okay? He starts sinking and he's screaming and he grabs the altar, which is also made of stone, and his hand starts melting into the altar, right? Unbelievable.